If you're dealing with a malignant narcissist, you haven't seen the worst of them yet. No matter how well you think you know them, no matter how many things you've experienced, how many things you've been through, unless you understand what it truly means for this person not to have empathy and not to have an integrated self, not to have an internal sense of integrity, and what the consequences of that are, then you really haven't seen the worst of them and understood on a strong level what they're capable of. And the reason for that is because when you first meet someone and you have that initial impression of them, that initial impression is like a snapshot. And everything that happens within that relationship, as you get to know them, as you see how they respond to different situations and how they respond to conflict and, just various things, you build on your understanding of them from that snapshot. But with a narcissist, you come to a certain point where you understand that that snapshot was false, that it wasn't real, that they were pretending, that they were mirroring you, that they were playing a role so that they could seduce you into a fantasy world with them and get you locked into a trauma bond. And that's, of course, until you start to uncover all of these things that they were doing, these secrets, these lies, these deceptions. And slowly, that image of them that was in your mind, that person you thought was loving and kind and generous and all of those things that you projected onto the narcissist, you realize that that's not who they are. And that's when your mind really starts to downward spiral into this depression as you try to reconcile what you're feeling and what you're experiencing in this new hellish reality with what you thought you knew about this person in the past. And that's when you experience the internal emotional discomfort that we call cognitive dissonance, because you have these two conflicting narratives in your mind at the same time. And too often, to resolve that cognitive dissonance, to alleviate that pain, what happens is you seek comfort and you experience euphoric recall. You start thinking about all of the good times and you start justifying some of their behavior. And you may be tempted to go back into a relationship with them because you think, I can handle it this time. Now I see who they are. Now I see what they're capable of. And that would be a mistake, because narcissists, particularly a malignant narcissist, when you're dealing with someone who has impaired empathy or no empathy at all, that's a very serious thing. There's no psychological integrity. There's no moral compass. There's no one to put on trial. There's no internal conflict when they're thinking about doing things to you. When they experience narcissistic rage, when they experience some sort of injury where they want to retaliate against you, and there's no internal conflict, what that means is that they're capable of the most atrocious, most cruel type of behavior. And it's important for you to be cognizant of that when you think about you can handle it. When you have that thought, well, I can handle it this time. It's important for you to know what it is precisely that you're attempting to handle. And I'll share a personal detail. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Ken Washington. and I'm a narcissistic abuse survivor and a narcissistic abuse recovery coach. And I work with people who have been in these type of relationships and help them gain clarity and resolve the cognitive dissonance and come up with plans to leave those relationships, navigate those relationships, leave them, and build a better life and to find their purpose. And so if you're new to this channel, please like the video, subscribe, and share to get this message that's important out to someone who might need to hear it. And so I want to share with you an experience I had, not to impress you, but to impress upon you the seriousness of what can happen when you're in this type of relationship. One of the worst experiences I had in this type of relationship was where a narcissist broke my finger and just went to sleep, peacefully, right beside me, as if nothing had happened at all. And when I was in that relationship, before I really understood the nature of a narcissist and what a narcissist was, I was really curious about how somebody could do something like that. It didn't make sense to me. And I'm still a curious person, but there are certain things when you're in a narcissistically abusive relationship, when you're dealing with someone like that, and you don't know about narcissists and narcissism, you assume that the stuff that's inside of you, the way you feel, the way you connect with people, the way you bond, you assume that that is also inside of this person. But over time, as you get to know this person better, you start to realize there are certain things that they're capable of doing that you are not capable of doing. And that was one of those moments for me. That was a critical moment where I started to really think about, well, what would it take for me to do something like that? And I tried to put myself in the opposite position, not on the receiving end, not on the receiving end, but on the giving end of it. What would it take for me to break someone's finger and then just go to sleep peacefully as if nothing had happened? And as I thought about that, the conclusion that I came to was that I was incapable of doing something like that. And so I got curious. I said, well, why is it that I'm incapable of doing something like that? Even the very thought of imagining doing something like that, it gives me an internal discomfort that it's a revulsion. It's revolting. It's a visceral barrier that prevents me from being able to do something like that. And so I thought about, what is that? Why is that there? And this is what makes a narcissist so dangerous. The reason that whenever I think about doing that, there's a psychological barrier, there's a revulsion, is because of psychological integrity. You're a normal person. Normal people who have empathy, who feel what other people feel and form bonds and have these mirror neurons where you can put yourself in someone's shoes and feel their pain. You have psychological integrity. You have certain boundaries, internal boundaries and restrictions that will not allow you or will make it very difficult for you to do certain things to someone else. And narcissists don't have those same type of boundaries. They don't have, particularly a malignant narcissist, they don't have those same type of boundaries. They don't have that moral compass that you have. There's no internal conflict that is fighting against them and keeping them from doing some of the most atrocious things imaginable. So in the heat of the moment, if they're upset with you, if they have some kind of narcissistic injury, whether it's justified or perceived, then they can do things to you that you can't imagine doing to them. And that's why it's really critical for you, if you're in that situation, to evaluate the circumstances, not based on what you've already seen this person do, but from a genuine understanding, a genuine education of the type, regarding the type of narcissist you're dealing with, and understanding the things that they're truly capable of, and not just the things that you've seen.